Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is Nazir Sofi. We have been talking about understanding marginalization. Understanding marginalization is the 7th chapter of Political Science book of class 8th. So far, we have talked about what marginalization means the concept of marginalization. We talked about the causes of marginalization, factors that lead to the marginalization. So we also talked about the effects of the marginalization, means what happens to the communities when they are marginalized. So we talked about, to some extent, about the Adivasis. We talked about their culture. We talked about the languages they speak. We talked about the religions they actually practice. We also talked about the stereotyping, which is one of the many things that Adivasis have to deal with. So today what our topic is, Adivasis and development. So students, in the process of development over the last 200 years, what we have observed that many because of this development model, because of this development process of the country over the last 200 years, what we have observed that vast areas of forests have been cleared due to agricultural expansion and due to other development projects, like many mining projects came up. And let me tell you, students, that mining projects and mining activities alone displaced 50% of the Adivasi population in India. So apart from the mining projects and the mining activities, so construction of dams is yet another important factor that actually adversely affected the lives of the Adivasis. So, due to these factors, be it the expansion of the agriculture, be it the deforestation, be it the establishment of the mining activities and the mining projects in Adivasi areas, or be it the construction of dams in the Adivasis areas, these factors and many other factors have led to the displacement of the Adivasis from their homelands. They were forced to move away from their piece of land. They were forced to actually sell their property and the land for meager amount, and as a result of these policies, as a result of these initiatives of the development, these Adivasis became poor and marginalized. Losing their students, losing their land and access to forests actually has resulted in the loss of their income. They lose their source of sustenance and source of livelihood when they are actually displaced from their homelands, when they are displaced from the areas they have been living for centuries. They have been living in for centuries. When they are displaced from their places, so actually they not lose only their source of income, they lose not only their source of sustenance and livelihood, they, most importantly, they lose their culture, they lose their traditions, they lose their customs, they lose their way of life. So students, initially when we compare the lives of the Adivasis that they used to live in earlier times, before 200 years, with the life they are living now, so what we find is a huge difference. So let me tell you how. Initially their lives were rich. Their lives were rich. How? They had deep knowledge about forests. They had deep knowledge about forests, and they had access to and control over forests. So initially, when we look at the lives of the Adivasis, what we find is that their lives were rich. Why? Because they had deep knowledge about forests and they had access to and control over the forests. So when we say control, they had the control over the forests till till mid 19th century. What it actually means is that they were never ruled by the states or the empires. So they were a kind of, they lived independent life. The empires or the states, they were not ruled, these Adivasis were not ruled by the empires or the states. Rather, these empires or the states depended heavily on the Adivasis for their access to forest resources. But nowadays, when we look at the Adivasis, what we find is that they are alive. They are helpless people today. They are deprived. They are excluded. They are not considered as part of the mainstream. So they get caught because over the last 200 years, they have been migrated. They have been forced to migrate to states where they end up as being low-wage workers in factories, in construction sites, or as domestic workers. As you can see on the screen, so I have it's being displayed on the screen. Besides, they get caught in a poverty and deprivation, and as a result of being caught in the poverty and deprivation, what we see today is that their children are malnourished, and they are not properly educated. And as far as the literacy rate is concerned, literacy rate of Adivasis are concerned, it's quite low compared to rest of the communities, and they are not performing well when it comes to other indicators of the development. So government must actually work extra mile to help these Adivasis live better life, to resolve their issues, and to do away with the problems they are facing. So now we'll move to another topic, and that is minorities and marginalization. Minorities and marginalization. Okay, first we'll see what minority means, what minority is. When we say minority, minority means a group of people which is numerically small, in relation to rest of the population. But we must understand that minority is not all about the numbers. So the concept goes beyond the numbers. It encompasses issues like power, access to resources, access to opportunities. It also has, it has social, economic, political, and cultural dimensions. So minority means a community, a group of people which is numerically small in relation to rest of the population. But we should know that the concept of minority goes beyond numbers. It encompasses issues like issues of power, access to resources, access to opportunities. It has social, economic, political, and cultural dimensions as well. At times it is possible in democracy that a majority community may influence the way the government and the society express themselves. What I mean to say is that at times in democracy it is possible that a majority community may try to impose its will on the minority, on the minority. Yes, at that time or in such cases, size can be of disadvantage and can lead to discrimination against the smaller communities. So what we require is the safeguards to protect the minorities. So now we'll move to the another topic, a subtopic which is connected to the minorities, that is the safeguards to protect the minorities. So let's talk about these safeguards. Safeguards to protect minorities. Safeguards are needed to protect the minorities against the possibility of being culturally dominated by the majority community. Safeguards are needed to protect the minorities against the deprivation, discrimination, and disadvantage. Smaller groups, because smaller groups may feel insecure about their lives, about their assets, about their well-being, about their rights, especially when the relations between the majority community and minority is strained, is fraught. So at that time, it becomes very important that the rights, that the well-being, that the resources, that the assets of the these minorities are protected, and such safeguards are provided by the Constitution. So when I say Constitution, I mean Constitution of India. So Constitution of India is committed to protect the cultural diversity of the country and promote equality and justice in the society. So, for example, let me give you an example. As you can see on the screen, I have displayed here the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Preamble, let me tell you students, dear students, preamble is the introductory part of the Constitution of India, and the preamble says, and as you can see on the screen, that we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So it talks about these ideals: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And the preamble further states that, preamble further states that to constitute, the preamble of the Constitution states that we the people of India, having solemnly constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, and equality. And besides the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which primarily talks about the ideals and the objectives of the Indian state, so we have the fundamental rights mentioned in the Indian Constitution in part 3rd, fundamental rights. Fundamental rights which are enforceable by law. So there are 6 fundamental rights provided by the Indian Constitution under Article 12 to 35, and these fundamental rights are a right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, or the right to constitutional remedies. So if in case the rights of an individual or a community or a particular group are violated, so one can approach the court of law to get his or her violated rights back. So and the job, because judiciary has the responsibility of upholding the rule of law in the country. It has the power and responsibility to take care that provisions of the Constitution are not violated by anybody, including by the government. So because if any individual or an organization or the government itself violates the law, violates the rights of the people, violates the rights of an individual or a particular community, so that particular community or that individual can approach either the High Court or the Supreme Court of India and to get his or her or its rights back.